Hello everyone and welcome to the Crucible Cast. My name's Alex, I'm the Organised Play Manager and I'm joined here today with, I almost said your name.
Almost said it.
Almost
Brad Andrews, the lead designer of KeyForge at Fantasy Flight Games.
Alright, we're doing something a little bit different with this Crucible Cast. As you see, it's just the two of us, we normally have three of us.
But we're a little lonely.
A little lonely. But we thought it'd be a good time to think back over the year of KeyForge.
Oh, our memories can keep us company.
Yeah, it's so cheesy, it's great.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so, I mean, we're going to talk about some of our memories of the year. I'm going to kick it off with the Vault Tour in the UK, at the UK Games Expo.
Oh, wonderful.
Particularly the final between John and Finn, where Finn put down the Heart of the Forest on turn one. Mm-hmm. And that kind of dictated how the game was going to go from there onwards.
It's such an interesting card, and the way it affects a game of KeyForge is really unique, and we love making cards like that. So it was really cool to see it in action in the finals there.
And the way that, so John went up for a super lead, went straight ahead, which is how you deal with an opponent's card like that. But then you could see Finn had his plan. He was setting up his way to forge his second key. He had a miasma he'd been holding for a while. He was going to miasma John, get himself on check, which he did. He got up to like 7 amber, only for John to be able to, I think it was Brent the Fanatic, he managed to exhume out of the graveyard, give his opponent amber, then blow up the board to steal it back, put himself on check and push it straight back. It was a fantastic little back and forth, and it was all building up to that through the whole game. And it was great. And it was a sealed Vault Tour. These guys, the first time they were playing with Age of Ascension, it was a really, really cool environment and I think a fitting final to that event.
Well, it's really cool seeing the different type of decks that get pulled at those sealed events as opposed to Archon. You know, I have a really great memory myself of commentating on the finals of the Archon tournament at Gen Con.
Right.
Seeing those two decks go up against each other with a very clear game plan, one stalling, the other rushing, and seeing how those two decks interacted with each other. We've had some really amazing, amazing finals this year.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. I mean, you'd expect that the top players get to the final, and we've been really spoiled with how that's been. I guess another fun thing for me, I mean, personally, I think you've met Richard a couple of times, but for me to be able to meet Richard Garfield was a huge thing for me. I got to do that live stream with him. Such a great guy. Just be able to hang out with him for a day, talk to him about the concept of the game, about procedural card generation, all the things that are coming, which we can't talk a huge amount about yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got to leave people in the dark.
Yeah. A little bit about what's coming, yeah. But it was really interesting hearing his philosophy and thought about what was coming, and that was great.
Yeah, he's been really, really great about communicating with the team. I've got him on speed dial, and he'll call me every once in a while on a random Sunday just to talk about the game. It's been a really, really wonderful thing getting to know him and working with him, and you know, we couldn't be more thankful for his involvement. It
was great. And then on the contrast to that, that was something that I guess I was hoping I'd get to meet him. That was something we were building up to. We planned that. Some of the things that were unplanned in the interaction with the community that we had over the year. My favorite by far that I was not expecting was the rhubarb crumble. The crumble exploded.
You still haven't made it for me.
I still haven't. I think we might do that on the Crucible Cast at some point.
We should definitely.
It's on the short list of things to do on the Crucible
we
Cast.
should definitely do that.
I may well make a Crucible, my
Crucible
rhubarb crumble.
Yeah.
And I thank you everyone who's involved in pushing that message.
Do you think we should run a special tournament, a Crumble Rumble?
A Crumble Rumble?
Yeah.
What would the prize be? A crumble? We could do. I mean, that was one of those classic examples of that was unplanned. It was just a bit of fun with the community.
You know what? If you guys want a Crumble Rumble, make your voices heard. Comments are right below.
I can just hear my phone going off now. Like on Saturday when this goes live. Where's the Crumble Rumble?
Crumble Rumble, 2020.
And my final memory was also Gen Con. We had the vending machine there, which was great.
Oh, the vending machine.
Which was we called him our most valuable employee over the weekend. He was fantastic. And then me and Josh bumped into a group of guys who just bought some decks, didn't know what it was all about. We grabbed some tokens and sat down with them, and we played for a couple of hours, about 11 to 12 at night, in the gaming area with them. Never played the game before. They went and bought a couple more decks, and it was just this really great example of how accessible KeyForge can be. Mm-hmm. Like, pick up a deck, have a play, like the game, and you're in. And that's one of the things that appealed to me about the game. It was great to see that happening with a group of gamers at Gen Con. It was great.
Oh, man. You know, there's so many great memories from this year, and I can think of a couple. The first one was when we were just about to announce the new houses, and getting to just kind of subtly tease what they were going to be all about and seeing the community go absolutely wild. was a lot of fun, especially, you know, that kind of moment where you're like, I can't wait for you to see this, but I get to poke you a little bit.
It was like, not many people fathomed what you were going on about really with that. It was kind of
exactly
like, it's few people I think picked up on it, and I think the dino ones are a little bit more obvious because you're quoting some films.
Yes.
But I think Star Alliance was pretty cryptic in your posts.
It took people a little bit. For a while, people didn't quite know what to think. I know there was a lot of talk about Saurians being an underwater house because of their logo, and you know, especially their color scheme too. So there was some back and forth there, which was a lot of fun, and I love seeing that type of speculation in the community. What's coming next? Yeah. Especially since I do like to tease and hint. I'm sure people saw, you know, the fuzzy Gruen hanging out in the background for months before we announced it.
People haven't figured it out yet. There's nearly always something in the background.
almost always something hidden somewhere on the set.
One's been there a while and no one's picked up on it yet. Yeah. So we'll see if that gets caught this time.
Eventually. But I guess I can't not talk about this year without mentioning all of the very, very horrendous food challenges that I've been subject to. Both the gross smoothie. Oh man, I still can sort of taste that ranch soda in the back of my mind, and it haunts me. I think it will probably haunt me till my dying day.
We were chatting about this off camera before we filmed, and I'm still very grateful that no one's pulled out of that, because I feel like someone would come and grab me and make me go into an episode, and so far...
If you want to see Alex go through a gross challenge, comments are below.
Please don't. All right. Well, that's kind of... I think it's a nice wrap-up of the year. We actually got a really cool feature that we discussed about doing, which I think we should do now, where I think we're going to get Brad to go through some of the design choices on some of the cards and just go through quirky, interesting things about some of the cards that you may or may not know. So we've got 6-7 cards we're going to go through, maybe 8-ish. We kind of group the first two, and these are the Mermooks from the current set, from Worlds Collide.
Yeah, so we have the imprinted Mermook and the Musthic Mermook. And like... we like to take a lot of different types of inspiration into KeyForge, and one in particular I love to do is unusual biology. And so Untamed tends to get a lot of these type of things. Yeah. But, you know, we have a Mermook in Call of the Archons. It's a nice big red lobster man. Mm-hmm. And with the third set, we've brought in 2 new Mermooks, an imprinted Mermook, which is blue, and a Musthic Mermook, which is kind of this gold color. Now, this is actually based on a real-life phenomenon with lobsters. Lobsters can actually be born, a very, very rare chance of them being blue, or an even rarer chance of them being golden.
Is that just a random... is it just a chance thing, or is it a... I'm curious.
It's a random mutation that exists within the lobster genome.
A mutation, you say?
A mutation.
Okay. Interesting.
And they don't happen a lot of times, but they're very rare. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, the blue and gold Mermooks are based on that. And then the word Musthic is actually a term that refers to elephants. Right. And now bull elephants, when they approach mating season, will get on this kind of aggressive behavior that's atypical of them. And we wanted to bring over that sense into these giant kind of lobsters. And so this Musthic Mermook does damage, kind of wrecks up the place, and that kind of represents that type of aggression.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think a lot of people miss that there's some great threads going on in the groups right now about looking deeper into the art and things. But I think it's great to hear about just the decision around a creature, because that card could be anything. The mechanics could be anything, right? And to have that kind of story that actually creates this kind of series of these Mermooks, I think it's great.
Well, yeah, you want to try and put as much care behind the scenes as you're seeing up front. That really helps the game feel more complete and together and like it's a living, breathing world.
So the next card I want to talk about is a removal card that we have, and that is a Tertiate.
Okay, yep.
Because you were telling me about all the decisions and how long it took you to get to that card.
Yeah, this was a really weird card. It wasn't the most changed card through the process, but it definitely had a lot of variations. It started off as this card that would like look for one end of your battle line and then destroy every third creature.
Okay.
And it ended up being like a lot of text to do very little. It was hard to play with, hard to work around. Mm-hmm. And we ended up trying just iteration after iteration of Tertiate. Mm-hmm. And then one day we were sitting around, and I think it was Danny turned to me and just said, what if it just destroyed a third of creatures? And we all just had this moment of silence that just kind of echoed through the room. And we're all like, oh, man. Yeah, have it do that.
Yeah, and again, that makes it so much, I guess, in theory, better for the person playing it because they get to choose, right?
Yes.
You can make it slightly less, more one-sided by picking your opponents.
But it was a moment of like embracing the power, embracing the simplicity of the card, rather than trying to have this forced program of interaction, which I think is at the core of the KeyForge experience. We're trying to have complexity rise from these simple effects. And so I think it's a cool one to talk about.
Yeah, great. And we're going to move on to a Star Alliance card, and that would be part of a cycle, as you were, which is Captain Val Jericho.
And it's funny, because I think the most interesting thing about Captain Val Jericho is it didn't start off as a cycle. Val Jericho was actually the first one of the leaders we designed. We wanted an effect that would kind of encompass that idea. We had already quoted Val Jericho several times on cards. And so she had to be interesting. She had to be different. And she had to be something that would stand out. And I was kind of kicking around some ideas, but I kind of settled on this idea that she had to be in the center of the battle line, center of the action, on the bridge, ready to lead and command. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought about like what other houses we were bringing in. I started thinking of like, okay, well, who leads the Saurians? And that's the Saurus Rex.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, but we have all these other groups, all these other houses that also could use these leaders. And so we talked about it and decided that we wanted to do one of these for each house, that it wasn't just going to be Val Jericho. And I think it really worked out. We're really happy with where all the leaders ended up. And I think they provide some really interesting play opportunities as players try and maneuver them back into the center of the battle line where they can be most effective.
The mechanic's particularly nice as well because your opponent can deal with it. They can use removal or fighting to take it out of the center battle line, but then on your turn you get that opportunity again to reposition by playing creatures to get them back into the battle line, or even fighting and destroying your own creatures if you want to.
So like it was just this little happy accident that happened to result in some really, really interesting gameplay.
Great. So we talked about the Saurus Rex.
Yes.
Talking about another dinosaur, another saurian creature, which I feel like you need to get this off your chest.
Ooh,
I feel like this is
I know
built
which one.
up
I know.
over
Okay.
a bit of time, and this is the Philosophosaurus.
Yes, the Falafel-saurus.
Falafelsaurus.
Yes.
Philosophosaurus. Yeah.
So, when I was a kid, I saw a very influential dinosaur movie. And
we're not going to name it.
We're not going to name it.
We couldn't possibly name.
Yeah.
That
it's no walk. It's no walk in the park. But I saw this movie, and I was an impressionable young paleontologist that really, really loved Dilophosaurus. It's my favorite dinosaur. And when I saw this film, I was very, very upset.
So I'm now going to annoy about it. That's the one with the frilly neck thing, like the spits venom.
Not at all. No. In that film, they gave it both this frill and had it spit venom, neither of which are scientifically accurate. And I have seen these two tropes repeated time and time again in many, many different games because of the influence of that film.
Right.
And as a game designer and paleontologist, I felt it only right that we finally try and depict it more accurately. Now, again, obviously, it's a goofy game about Roman dinosaurs.
The deep truth of why Brad had to develop KeyForge had been building up to this moment.
But I really wanted to do Dilophosaurus justice, and we had a great name that worked, and an opportunity to not give it a frill and not have it have a mechanic that spat poison.
Right.
So this was really kind of a personal grudge, and I'm really, really happy to have gotten to make this card finally.
Brilliant. I love that. That's the sort of thing I'd do. Whenever I have something that really bugs me, I find a way to get rid of it.
Speaking of stuff that bugs you.
There's stuff that bugs me. Look at that transition. Let's talk about a disc creature. One that, whenever I've seen people play it against me, they seem to not utilize its mechanics so much, whereas when I use it quite aggressively, depending on the board state, and that's Buzzle.
Yep.
So Buzzle is the disc creature that when you use it, or when you fight with it, or work with it, I can't remember.
When you play
it, that's it.
And fight with it.
And fight with it. You can purge a neighboring creature
Yep.
to ready and use it. Right?
Yep. And so this was probably our most changed card in Worlds Collide. We went through the most variations because it is such a spicy, fun effect. You know, we had all sorts of different variation. Ones that would give you piles of amber, others that would just, you know, rip through creatures. And you know, we bounced around to so many different ideas. I probably think we went through 15 different variations with this card.
Okay.
And this is the one we finally settled on as the Bustle.
That's cool. Because you can still generate, if you give it the right upgrades, you could still generate a ton of amber from doing that.
But we wanted it to be a little more focused on what it did and be a little bit more of a dagger rather than a Swiss Army knife, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we're really happy with where it ended up, and I'd love to see more people getting aggressive with it because I think it can be this wonderful, wonderful play where it can really dig you out of a bad spot.
It's almost a board wipe potentially. Like it can be have that utility to it
if you do it right.
Yeah. Let's move on to another card, and we were talking about this one off camera earlier, and I didn't realize this until you said it, but this is one of the very few top-down design cards in KeyForge, whereas most of them are bottom-up.
Yes.
And this is the Sanitation Engineer, and you wanted to design a Sanitation Engineer. It wasn't a card that suited it. This was a Sanitation Engineer from day one.
Yeah, you know, in KeyForge we tend to do a lot more bottom-up design because you're trying to create an environment of this greater whole, more cards than you typically would for, say, like an LCG or something, or say something like Destiny, which has booster packs. You're trying to create this larger picture, and then since all of the rares and uncommons and rares are being pulled from that by different percentage points, like you're not so much designing with pure like focus, you're trying to design to the algorithm.
Right.
And so because of that, we tend to do fewer top-down designs. Now, Sanitation Engineer was a title that I liked all the way back to Call of the Archons. And I really wanted to do a card with it because, well, you know, the idea of a janitor and then the title Sanitation Engineer, well, Sanitation Engineer is a perfect Logos card title.
Yeah.
But, like, how do we capture a janitor? And getting to be like, cool, let's add hazardous onto it, and then let's let it like toss out junk from your hand, and then we got a little bit of fun flavor text on there as well. Like it all just kind of coalesced together, and the story of that card is really fun.
Yeah, I love hearing examples of top down. I mean, I guess to an extent, Captain Valjerica was also a top down. You had a persona you wanted to represent with the game mechanics, as opposed to a game mechanic that needed a persona at the end of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I really like seeing. And I think, like say, KeyForge struggles a little bit with that, from my understanding, because you kind of have to ensure what you've got, but you can still pull the
again.
other thing out.
It's all about like making sure you hit your bases. I like to think of each card is a thread in a greater, you know, piece of cloth that forms the fabric, like the tapestry of a set. Like everything builds up, and every card informs every other card we put in the set. Again, it's this big ecosystem you're trying to craft rather than particular card interactions.
And we're going to do one last card in this segment. And this one, I think people are going to be like angry, sad, or intrigued by this, because you're going to tell people about a rarity swap, essentially through the design.
Yep.
And then maybe some people going, it should have been
that
way. And everyone obviously has an opinion. But this one, and I didn't realize, until we spoke about it, I hadn't even clocked it was a common card.
Yep.
But this is Golden Spiral.
Yes, Golden Spiral in the Saurians was originally a rare.
Right.
As we continued with development on Saurians, it was really difficult getting them into a happy place. Their mechanic was new and really different, and that risk-reward play style was really hard to nail exactly where it was going to play right. And so we wanted to get a little bit more amber into the system, encourage players to want to exalt their creatures. And there wasn't really a great card at common that was almost pure upside and letting players really engage with that mechanic. So I kept on racking my brain and what we would put in, and I was looking over the set and trying to like be inspired, and I see Golden Spirals at rare. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I know this card is good. It's really good, but this is exactly the type of effect I'm looking for at common.
Right. So why design a whole new way to use Exalt at common when you've got one there already.
Exactly.
That may be okay at common.
And we tried it out and it worked really well. Like we knew it was a powerful card, but it's okay to put powerful cards at common. You know, Gateway to Dis is a perfect example of a very powerful card we can put at common. You know, it makes it not that hard to find. It means that your decks can, in general, be more fun and enjoyable. And so it was a really great moment for the set overall when we swapped that down in Rarity. And Saurian's really started to take more and more life with that switch. So I'll stand by it. I think it was one of the pivotal moments in Saurian design in general.
Pull a Brad on Brad. If you disagree, feel free to comment like crazy below.
Yeah, right
Let
below.
him know.
Right
It'd be
below.
Great. All right, so I think that was a bit of fun and some insight into some of the cards and some of the decisions that go on. We're just going to tail off. This is the last Crucible Cast of the year. So we're going to tail off really with what we're looking forward to for next year. Now, obviously, my focus is very OP-centered, so I can't wait for the Vault Warrior tryouts and qualifiers to kick off, and you can expect an announcement early January, mid-January, with all the dates and details for that. I'm also very excited for the World Championships, the 7th to 9th of May. With the fun team event we're going to work on. I'm working with the developers to make sure it's working good. Once we're happy with it, we'll get the details for that out so people can know what to expect. So they're two big things that I'm really excited for. And then obviously, some of you may have seen, I'm going to be at the Albany Vault Tour, which has been a while since I've been to a Vault Tour. Gen Con, I think, was my last one. So to be able to get out to another one is really exciting for me. It's my first one with Yeti doing them. I'm going to be having a bit of fun. We had these decks made for us for Christmas that people have seen with our names on. Accidentally, but somewhat fortuitously, a Red Hawk deck somehow was made. I don't know how that happened. I know why it was happened, but it wasn't supposed to happen. So I have this Red Hawk deck with the Ep15 stamp on. It's a pretty okay deck, actually. So people who challenge me at the Albany Vault Tour, if they beat me, your name's going to go in a hat. And then we're going to pull a name out of the hat, and they're going to win that deck. And it'll be the only one outside of employee to have the KeyForge stamp on the back of every card.
That's pretty
so that's
awesome.
going to be pretty cool. We may do some more stuff like this going forwards. Bit of a trial, see how it's received. If people are liking that as an idea, we're going to do some more interesting things for staff challenges. Probably starting at the World Championships and moving on. We've got a ton of ideas of how we can make the interaction with us and you guys at events a little bit more interesting, a bit spicier, and some more exclusive things than just hammer shots.
Nothing like a little bit of spice.
I mean, like a bit of spice. So that's really what I'm hyped for. Is there anything you're really jumped up for next year? I mean, bearing on there's a lot of things you can't say about what's coming up next year.
Well, I'm definitely excited for...
really great.
But now with that massive
massive,
hint. I'm really looking forward to the Vault Tour, the Vault Warrior series, and seeing that top level of competitive play, and seeing what all you guys at home bring out for those. With money on the line, what does KeyForge look like? Yeah. And I'm really excited to see that play out. Gosh.
I love this. He's trying to work out what he can say without saying anything.
I know, it's hard. There's so many things that I'm just out of my mind excited for that I just can't talk about.
What I suggest you do is tune into future Crucible Casts, where we'll be able to share a little bit more about what's coming up, and we can go into a little bit of the future sets and what's coming.
And there's definitely nothing hidden in the back.
No, nothing. Nothing. All right, well, look, thank you for joining us. A little bit of a different episode today. We can't end an episode without reminding you how to send in your rules questions. Brad's team does pick them up, and that's kfrules@fantasyflightgames.com. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Please subscribe. There'll be some links down below for getting to all the previous episodes. We've talked about different things in the game, various rules updates. Yep. And as always, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. There's links to below as well for those. But I think that pretty much ties it up for 2019.
Yeah, but if you do want to watch any of our previous episodes, you can go ahead and click on the thumbnails.
I'm going to guess there.
There.
Ryan will put it somewhere.
Yeah, Ryan will put it
I actually do want to take this chance to say big thanks to Ryan behind the camera the whole time. When we pitched the idea of a Crucible Cast just over a year ago, I don't think we really realized we'd still be doing it now and it become a monthly thing. So Ryan gets to sit there and put up with us, kind of blagging our way through each episode, and he's a great sport. So Ryan, thanks very much, and have a great new year, everyone, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.